Good morning, and thank you for coming. Uh, it's funny, on the way here this morning with Razel in the car, I was thinking, boy, we should make it more obvious that you can come at 11 just for the talk, but I guess you read my mind and you knew that that was an option, so that's wonderful. So thank you for those joining us for the second half of the morning, and nice to have those of us who it made sense to be here for the whole thing. It's like a two-part, part A, part B, or do it all together kind of program, starting at 9:30 and then 11. And we're just having such a sweet morning together, I think. Isn't it nice to be here? Yeah. Which makes me a little bit like second guessing myself about something else. Which is, this is just, we're into our first year in the temple, and we've been trying to figure out how much stuff to do, and when to do it, and how to present it, and all those things. Imagine if you opened a Zen temple, you have to figure all this stuff out. And we've always been a little lighter in the summer because of, it's summer in the Northwest. So we did actually decide that this Sunday program, much as now I want to be here every Sunday with you, but we decided this Sunday program could enjoy a little summer vacation. And we'll resume it again in September and do a nice, consistent every week from September through May. So we'll have this week and next week, and then we'll take a little pause on this particular one. But we also are continuing to meet through the summer on Wednesday evenings. And what's nice about Wednesday evenings, we go from 6:30 to 8:30 on Wednesday, is this time of year it's still light when we get out, So hopefully many of us can come on Wednesday through the summer, and then we'll start Sunday up again in September. We also offer every weekday morning a short meditation period, half an hour meditation, that we do through Zoom. And if, like me, you're a little tired of Zoom, I can understand that. But actually this works pretty well. You don't really have to listen to anybody or have a class or a meeting. It's not a business meeting, thank goodness. The Zoom screen actually just shows you other people are meditating with me right now, and then a bell appears, and to start your practice. And then a bell appears again a half hour later, and we do a little ritual together and a little teeny bit of sharing at the end. So that's been very nice. We started that with the pandemic and have continued it. So that's Monday through Friday from 7 to about 7:40 in the morning. And you can also do a lot of practice with us kind of self-paced, because we record these talks. And on our website at redcedarzen.org, we have hundreds of them. So you can go to a Dharma talk anytime you want. Maybe you have. It's a funny thing for me sometimes, because I end up giving a lot of the talks, and sometimes I'll meet somebody who says, "Oh, I already know you really well, but I've never met you." Your voice is so familiar. It's kind of fun. And the other thing that's been really nice about Sundays, though, is it hasn't just been my voice. We have a collection of 7 or 8 practice leaders who have done extra training and give talks, and that little circle keeps growing, which is wonderful. So we have many students and many teachers, and the way we understand it is the teachers also know that they are students, and I certainly am. Because our object here is to learn about how to be a person. And we're never done, right? And sometimes it's humbling, isn't it, to realize from time to time when we come up for air or we have some problem, to realize how little we actually know about how to be a person, right? So these are such helpful teachings that we've been studying on Sunday about how to be a person. A person with awareness, a person with some dignity, a person who is content in their life, at least more content, more dignified, a person who is humble, listens, and pays attention. We've been studying a set of 6 practices, and some of you have heard these many times, and for some of us it'll be new, that were concocted in India sometime around the beginning of the Common Era, around the same time as Jesus, to help us really be a person. And the model of personhood that they thought of, they used a Sanskrit word because Sanskrit was the language of Indian Buddhism at the beginning. The Sanskrit word they picked for a great model for a real person is bodhisattva. So these are teachings for being a bodhisattva. Bodhi means awakening or to wake up or to be really present. And sattva is a being, a person. So their model of a real person was a being who's awake, who's really here. And this is not some radical religious thing that you have to go live in a monastery forever, although that wouldn't be the worst thing to do, to attain or to explore. We're already awake. We're already awake. We already are here. And as we pay more attention to our awakeness, we notice, oddly, we notice, oh, sometimes I'm not so awake. You know what I mean? Sometimes I'm not so present. Sometimes I'm not really taking it in. Sometimes I'm lost in my point of view. Maybe it comes to us honestly, lost in my conditioning and habits and reactivity, where I can't take something in. I had a little challenge earlier taking in a teaching on not overstuffing the vegetable drawer in the fridge. So we always have more teachings we can take in. And sometimes we're awake and say, oh, okay, yeah, you absolutely. There are times we say, so there's endless applications to this, and that maybe seems like a trivial one, but the little ones are where we can really learn, right? So we're ready for the big ones, which we know will come and are coming and are already here. Because the other thing that the Buddhist tradition in which this model of the Bodhisattva appeared in is to be really realistic, and really real about how temporary this all is, how brief our lives are, and how they are inevitably, baked in is challenge, right? We like to be healthy, and we're not going to always get to be healthy, right? And I know some of you are ill right now. Maybe it's a kind of illness just being born, right? Because being born is a terminal condition, right? But then to really enjoy and appreciate our brief time of aliveness. So Buddhism has always been really realistic about that, Even though the Indian cosmology it was born into does include rebirth, so you get another shot at this in that model. But it's still sad and painful. It's not like, oh, it doesn't matter, I'll get another life later, We would never feel that way. Every life, this life, is our only life that's right now, right? And it's precious. So this is a great motivator, And to be realistic, we all know well that we live in a culture that tries to deny this reality. A culture of, beauty aids and wellness retreats and, and denial of death. Death is off somewhere else where we don't have to see it. And in fact, we have to practice this a little bit less directly mostly, but one of the things that the Buddha recommended to his serious students, to the people who ordained as monastics, the monks and nuns, or like the full-timers, basically they're just the full-timers. And the Buddha also taught very enthusiastically to people living regular lives like we're living with jobs and kids and stuff. But anyway, he especially suggested to the monastics to really get clear on the seriousness and intensity and briefness of being alive. He suggested that they go to the charnel grounds. So the custom in India was to put the body on a funeral pyre, right, out in the open air. And he said to the monks, you go watch that, go see the body decomposing, burning up, And we do that a little bit now. If somebody's cremated, we do a ceremony at the crematorium which is interesting. It's like an industrial kind of space. And we set up a little altar on the concrete floor in the, warehouse room where the giant oven is. And sometimes the person's in a cardboard box, more or less, Sometimes it's open, sometimes not, but we know that they're right there. This body is right there, our brief human life. And we do some chanting and dedicating and, really holding love in our hearts for the person who has passed. And then right in the middle of the ceremony, the officiant makes a proclamation about this, which I'm kind of not remembering the exact words right now, but it's more or less, this is how it is, something like that, in more flowery language. And then somebody, a loved one, or maybe the crematorium operator, pushes the red button. There's an actual red button that starts the oven, and they slide in the body, and we say goodbye. So anyway, that's the context of what we're doing, right? Being a person. This is coming soon, no matter how we end up choosing to process our body. I also got to be at a green burial the other day. That was also nice. And sad. Young woman in her 40s. So rather than mope around, of course, we need a good way to live, right? A good way to live. And so the Buddha suggested these 6 practices. And I'm mostly going to focus on the last one, but I want to mention the other one so we all have context. The 6 practices are: be generous, practice generosity. That's the first one. The second one is, I've already been talking about it a bunch. Pay attention to how you live. Pay attention to your choices. Be righteous, be deliberate. And then there's a list of moral, of ethical things you might consider. Like what happens when you kind of bend the rules and take something that isn't really yours, how does that feel? Not so good, right? And not killing and blah, 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 right? So all the usual things. It's a similar list to the 10 Commandments with a little different attitude around them. So that's the second one. Live ethically, live well. The third one is practice patience. This is a very deep practice. And in all of them, they also include an additional encouragement. Not just be generous, not just be ethical, not just be patient, but do that in such a deep way that it's like sort of beyond any idea of it. And don't be limited by some idea of like, well, I've got this much money, I can make this much donation, or maybe that guy doesn't really deserve it, he'll probably just buy cigarettes, or whatever, So beyond all that. So it's a little hard to talk about because it's somehow a way of being and engaging that's beyond our ideas about all this, including our big idea, which is our idea of who I am, right? So beyond the idea of even who I am. Some big kind of generosity, big ethics, big patience. Usually I like to say patience beyond patience. And patience is actually a great example to kind of clarify this point. Because our usual idea of patience is, don't you think, is put up with it until it's over. And try not to complain too much. So that's kind of small patience, It's not the worst thing, Better than hitting people or, pushing them out of the way in the grocery line. I'm in a hurry, move, So this is kind of a limited patience to be back there and hurry up, stop chatting with the customer. You're supposed to be scanning things, right? You felt that way? If you feel that way, don't go to the Bellingham Food Co-op. They like to chat with the customers. Very lovely, but it takes a while. Go to Safeway or something. I'm sure they chat with people too. But the deeper kind of patience we're talking about, this patience beyond patience, this idea doesn't arise in your mind. You're like, here I am. The thing to do now is stand here, it appears. There's some people in front of me, and maybe some people behind me, and it's a beautiful day, and I'm breathing, and I'm alive, and I get to be here, and I can be in choice about whether to follow my breath or doom scroll on my phone. I think I'll choose breathing. Thank you very much. Okay. And then at some magical point, the checker says to you, how you doing? I say, oh, I'm fine. Yeah. And we could kind of like make it into a something, this kind of patience, which makes it small again. and say, "Oh, I was meditating in line because I'm a student of." No, it's just here, So in a way, the outcome of doing these practices really carefully and really fully is kind of the outcome is kind of nothing at all. Do you know what I mean? Just to be, right? Just to be content. It's not like that remarkable. We're not like excited and calling our mom later, like, yeah, I didn't get grouchy in the grocery line. Can you believe that? Yeah, like I'll keep going with the meditation. Yeah, and the teacher said I'm doing a good job. Oh, yeah. Because the problem with that, of course, is it's pretty flimsy, right? So the next time in the grocery line, you don't pull that off. Then what are you going to call your mom and say, "Oh, I failed today. I'm really it's terrible. I'm sorry." So this patience beyond patience is there's no idea of patience, right? It's just what's happening now, right? There's no like where did this cosmic rule come from that you thought when I get to the checkout counter there should be nobody in front of me? That is how it should be in this universe, And what a frustrating universe. It doesn't work right. It's broken. That's the common kind of conditioning. So anyway, that was the third one was patience. They all have this quality, like what's beyond my idea of this, Because our idea is always self-referential, right? All of our ideas are self-referential. It's about me. We can't help it. It's just the way ideas work. The fourth one is called enthusiastic energy. There they had to take the underlying word and give it a modifier to kind of get the point across. So joyful effort, enthusiastic energy. Just not fake, not being fake or anything. We don't have to be like, "It's a beautiful day, everybody." If you feel that way, go for it. But just to have some warmth about this life, right? This moment, this day, this body that's getting old and sick and gonna die. It's like So and to be aware that it feels good, right? It feels good to devote ourselves to good things, right? It's better than being avoidant. And sometimes it takes a little doing because we have ways we end up being avoidant, more habit patterns. But an encouragement to like show up for our lives, and that's a joyful thing. Even when things are hard, we can find some element of, and maybe joy isn't the right word. I mean, the problem with all this stuff is, if it's beyond words, I can't really describe it quite right with words, right? But you know what I mean, right? And even I am thinking a little bit today about death and dying. I'm not sure why, but maybe we should all be thinking about death and dying every day. Maybe that's why. But when I've gotten to be there for deaths a couple of times, I've had this experience. It is really sad. At least my experience has been. But somehow there's a joy isn't quite it. I was going to say a sweetness. That's not quite it. But you know what I mean? There's like that last exhale, that the person gives. Like there's a sense of relief. It's peaceful, right? There's a peacefulness. Even if before that moment they were struggling or had trouble, there's a peacefulness to that release. And so we show up with that kind of energy, like, yeah, this is how it is. So joyful is like a little too bubbly maybe, but something like that. So the fourth one was energy. The fifth one can be translated as paying attention, concentration. So, pay attention, what's happening, right? And it can also be translated as meditation. So lately I've been saying to myself, meditation, concentration, like with a hyphen. And that fits together, doesn't it? Meditation helps us concentrate, no question. Even if the first decade or two might be quite a bit of like noticing how crazy your mind is and how you feel like you can't do it, but something is gradually shifting, So meditation does support concentration. And meditation also helps us feel this beyondness that I'm talking about. Feel the way it's not just my idea of it. There's something beyond my idea. And that's a feeling, not a thought. It's a feeling. So in meditation, there's some way that we can feel that. Even if our mind is busy and distracted, or we're telling ourselves we're no good at this, or whatever it is. And even if we kind of space out for a while, or even if we bliss out for a while, Yeah. Concentration, meditation. So my actual topic for the morning, I have to watch the time now, is number 6. And number 6 is the beyondness of the other 5. The beyondness of our life, our actual life. It's called either wisdom or understanding, depending how you translate the underlying word. And if you've been around a little bit, the Sanskrit word is prajna, and Zen Buddhism is particularly a fan of prajna. So in our little chants, we're always talking about prajna. And prajna, like if prajna was used in an everyday Sanskrit text, they would translate it as wisdom. But it doesn't mean the kind of wisdom of learning stuff. You can see that already, I'm sure, because that's just more ideas. It's a sense of awareness, a sense of openness that just kind of gets in your bones, just kind of gets in there. And it's not something you think about so much, although we are thinking about it right now. And again, it's kind of hard to talk about. It's more like the flavoring of reality, beyond ourself and our usual habits and thoughts and patterns and reactions and all this. The kind of radical openness of it all, the kind of interconnectedness of it all, and the peacefulness of it all. Even when things are on the surface not so peaceful, we learn to feel the still place in the middle of the hubbub, of the chaos, and even of the violence, which is a part of our human world, sadly. In many of the talks we've been talking about, we've been quoting a little bit from a couple of books, which are great books. And I'm going to mention one of them now, not the other that we've been talking about. There's a nice book by Norman Fisher. He's an American Zen teacher, lives in California. And he's also my own teacher and the founding teacher of our Sangha. But he hasn't been up here in a while. He hasn't seen this place yet. It'd be fun to show him. Anyway, he wrote a nice book about these 6 practices for being a bodhisattva that he entitled The World Could Be Otherwise, which is a great title. It makes you think, like, what? The world could be otherwise. And his main premise is not just that these practices are a great way to be a better person, but that if we took them seriously, we would recognize that this whole world, which we take as kind of like the way it is, kind of locked down in a certain way, maybe with some variation, but more or less the world, that whole world is generated by us. Generated by us. All of us people. We're co-generating this world. We just feel a small little me and some great thing is happening in some other part of the world or something like that, Washington, D.C. or something, I'm trying not to talk about politics, but I can stick my tongue out. I think that's okay. But actually, what he means by this world could be otherwise, the world could be otherwise, if we all practice this way, just the same way we would naturally be awake, alert, joyful, calm, the whole world would be this way. And it really could be, that it really could be. It's a very optimistic vision, this vision of the bodhisattva. And resilient vision, like not, just because we see all this evidence in the news or whatever, that it's not anything like that. We remember that it's not just what it says in the news. There's a lot more going on than anything that we know about, and the potential of this world is beyond what we can imagine. So anyway, in Norman's chapter about this number 6, this wisdom, this prajna, this sense of the beyondness of everything, and he likes the word understanding to translate that instead of wisdom, because understanding is more of a process, right? Wisdom sounds like an accumulation. So understanding. He says, quote, without this perfection of understanding, nothing in a bodhisattva life holds up. It's just an essential ingredient to this transformation, to this shift in attitude and approach. So we need to learn how to appreciate and feel and make space for this sense of understanding, this sense of wisdom, this sense of the beyondness of things. But here's the tricky thing. This prajna, wisdom, understanding isn't something we can do. It isn't something we can get. It isn't something we can go to school for. There's no degrees in it, Although for sure we can be a little wiser and more understanding in the conventional way, and it's good to learn stuff, for sure. But this is something beyond that. But what we can do is make space for it. Make space for it. I was thinking about this yesterday. I had a huge ton of errands to run. Do you get wound a little tight on an errand day? I was feeling that way. I was, go, 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 right? So many errands. How am I going to get them all done in time? And I had a thing at 2, and I had to get all these errands done before then. And I could feel kind of the energy moving up in my body and kind of tightness in my chest and kind of clenching and holding I was on the car, holding the wheel really tight. And I went, wait. Bring it down, bring it down. I noticed my nervous system was elevated. I'm like, bring it down, bring it down. Make space, make space. And that doesn't automatically, sort of change everything exactly. But it actually does at the same time. Right? And it's a funny thing, isn't it? It's like, it seems like nothing. But can't days or years or decades go by where you never even have that thought, or that feeling of like, oh, yeah, it's okay. Just go steady. What errands get done will get done, And just like waiting in the grocery line, the traffic lights and the Habitat for Humanity wouldn't take the things I wanted to donate or, whatever, it's not like then it's like not a problem, right? Our usual approach, it's a problem. Like, dang it, why am I hitting all the red lights, right? That's a problem. Dang it, they should take, blah, blah, blah. Now I gotta go to the dump. Dang it, right? So to release from that energy, make space for the arising of this understanding, this doing errands beyond doing errands, right? Doing whatever we're doing beyond any idea of how it's supposed to go or shouldn't go or blah, blah, blah. Just really just to say, just doing it, right? And Zen is famous for that kind of language too. We always are saying, when you're eating, just eat. When you're walking, just walk. This is the chop wood, carry water kind of stuff, We don't get to do that probably, but, when you're driving, just drive, Here's a little poem that has maybe a little flavor of this, since it's hard to talk about directly. It's by someone named John Wellwood, and it's called Forget About Enlightenment. Here's the poem. Sit down wherever you are and listen to the wind singing in your veins. Feel the love, the longing, the fear in your bones. Open your heart to who you are right now. Not who you would like to be, not the saint you are striving to become, but the being right here before you, inside you, around you. All of you is holy. You are already more and less than whatever you can know. Breathe out, touch in, let go. Well, let's hear that again. It's not too long. And by the way, we post not just the recordings, but also my notes, so you can read this poem later on the website if you want. So forget about enlightenment. Sit down wherever you are and listen to the wind singing in your veins. Can you feel it? Feel the love, the longing, the fear in your bones. Open your heart to who you are right now, not who you would like to be, not the saint you are striving to become, but the being right here before you, inside you, around you. All of you is holy. You are already more and less than whatever you can know. Breathe out, touch in, let go. I heard a few hmms when in this one line, which I think is the most interesting line, this part about you are already more and less than whatever you can know. I think that's a great description of all these Buddhist teachings. We are more and less than whatever we can know, whatever we can think about. So it's great to think about it that way, I think. More and less. What does that mean? Wow, interesting. Zen is also famous for its little stories, to kind of try to point to these things that can't be talked about very directly. They're often little vignettes, like little plays, little dramas. This is a really great one that kind of talks a little bit about this prajna, this understanding, this wisdom. It's been a little while since we've had a Zen story in here, oddly, so. This is a story of a student named Matsu, and later Matsu goes on to be a famous teacher, but in this story he's a student in the monastery, maybe mid-20s or something like this, who knows. And he's working with a teacher named Nanyue. These are Chinese names, probably mispronounced by me. Matsu the student, Nanyue the teacher. So Matsu was like super into it. He was an A++ student. That's the backstory. During his training, Matsu had left the other monks in the monastery and gone instead to live at the temple Xuanzife, where he practiced seated meditation throughout the day and night. Really into it. Recognizing in him a vessel of the Dharma, Nanyue, the teacher, went to him and asked, "Worthy monk," like interrupting him. He's sitting there, he's there sitting. Teacher comes up and says, "Worthy monk, why do you sit in meditation?" What would you say? Why do you sit in meditation? Matsu replied, "I wish to become a Buddha." And Nanyue thinks about this for a minute. Matsu's still there trying to meditate and wondering why the teacher's bothering him, probably. But then the teacher picks up a roof tile. I guess this little temple had just gotten a new roof, so there's some scrap, some tile scraps around. He picked up a roof tile and started rubbing it on a stone on the ground right in front of this little temple. Rubbing this roof tile on the stone. Eventually, Matsu is enough bothered that he looks up and asks the teacher what he's doing. Nanyue, the teacher, replies, "Polishing this tile so it'll become a mirror." Polishing this tile so it'll become a mirror. It's not, I gotta polish for a while, probably. And Matsu, the student, says, "Well, what? How can a tile become a mirror through polishing?" And the teacher replies, this is a zinger. There's good zingers in these stories. Here's the zinger. "Well, how can you become a Buddha through sitting meditation?" Get it? Yeah. If you don't think, if you don't think that a tile can be polished into a mirror, how come you think you can polish yourself, right? How come you think you can polish yourself into a Buddha? Because it's that same, he was detecting, I think, that same kind of energy, like, I gotta get this thing right, right? So this is kind of like the small meditation, not the meditation beyond meditation. And this was a big deal for the student, probably partly because he'd been working at this really hard for a really long time. And the teacher was skillful, let's assume, and knew that there was a certain kind of readiness or like a ripeness in this student. And he probably noticed for years, maybe many years, who knows, maybe he's a little older now, that this one student was kind of like a striver, And yeah, you just leave them be, let them do their thing, they'll figure it out. But maybe he needs a little nudge now. I'm going to check in with this student. So Matsu's really struck by this teaching. Like, well, wait a minute. The tile, mirror, Buddha, what? This doesn't make any sense, what I'm doing? So he asked the teacher, then what should I do? Meditation doesn't make a Buddha. What should I do? Nanyue answered with a question. Also common in these stories. Not giving an answer, giving a question. The teacher said, "It's like riding in a cart. If the cart doesn't move, do you hit the cart or do you hit the ox?" Maybe implying that he was kind of like hitting the cart the way he was practicing. And Mayu just couldn't figure out what to say, Like hitting the ox seems too obvious, or wow, what's the teacher trying to get out here? Now I'm confused again. I had a moment of light and now I'm like, oh, what? But the teacher went on, gave him a little explanation. "Are you practicing seated meditation? Is that really what you're doing? Are you practicing to be a seated Buddha? As for seated meditation, meditation isn't limited to sitting or lying down. And as for being a Buddha, here's some quotes in the translation, Buddha isn't limited to any fixed form or idea. In the non-abiding Dharma, you should neither grasp nor reject. Grasp or reject. If you sit to be a Buddha, simply kill the Buddha. So this is other famous Zen language. Kill the Buddha. Let go of the Buddha. Let go of the Buddha. If you cling to the sitting posture, you will never realize the essential principle. So that's kind of a little bit technical language, which they used, but you get the point, I think. Chill out, dude, more or less, right? And let Buddha be unknown to you, right? So this is the beyondness, right? Don't think you know what Buddha is. Don't think you know what your potential as a human is. Don't you think you know anything like that for certain. Study, get curious, learn, but not with this idea like, I'm going to get it, I'm going to get it, I'm going to get it, I'm going to get it. Because that prevents you from getting it, you know? Puts you here with the Buddha there. Puts you as the tile rubbing against the stone. Ouch. And this last line, I had a different translation before, I think. I never heard this last line before. It's really great. So this little teaching about letting go of all this, you know, it's not fixed. It's not about your posture. It's not about this idea you have of Buddha. You know, let go of that idea. When he heard this, the student, Matsu, felt as though he had just partaken of the finest ghee. You know what ghee is? Like clarified butter in Indian cooking. So delicious, yeah. So pure. Puzzling though. I thought we were in China, not India, but anyway, it's okay. But here, look, they're using a metaphor, aren't they, you know? It doesn't just say he got it. It says it's like, right? It's like a moment of, yes, right? Just so. Just right. Just right. So we can't make any of this kind of beyondness happen, but we can make space for it. We can make space for it. And we already do sometimes. Sometimes deliberately, sometimes spontaneously. Sometimes a great aesthetic moment makes room for this kind of feeling. Listening to a really awesome song at a concert or a beautiful sunset sometimes. It's part of why we love the arts, I think, actually. Gives us access to this beyondness, right? Because, yeah, like try to explain a piece of art, right? You can't, right? You can say stuff. Oh, I like that it's a catchy tune, or she makes such good use of colors, like, is that pastel or oils, you know, right? But you can talk about it, but that's not the essence of it, right? It's not the essence of it. The essence of it is beyond the artwork, you know, and you can feel that. One nice analogy, and then I'll say a few things, and we'll chat a little bit all together, that I learned recently is these 6 practices, you can think about them like your hand. So this Prajna wisdom understanding is the middle, is your palm. And then you have 5 fingers. And you'll learn these more eventually. They're easy to look up to, don't worry. And the 5 fingers can be your practice of generosity, of ethical living, of patience, of joyful energy, joyful effort, and meditation concentration. So none of this could happen without the hand, right? You can't have fingers without a hand. So that's a nice way to think about it. It's all one thing. And yet a thumb is different from a pinky, right? And yet they are all one hand. All one hand. So here's a few suggestions I just made up on the spot last night. And you probably come up with your own suggestions inspired by what I'm kind of trying to get at here. Here's some ways to make space for Prajna wisdom understanding to be more of a felt part of your life. And how great that is, you know. First one, simple, obvious one, but doesn't mean it's not profound. Take a breath. And take a breath. Right here. Right now. Take a breath. You can practice that anytime. Here's a second one. Invite your heart to open and give generously and patiently something. Give generously and patiently something to everyone you meet, regardless of who they are. Right? Give a smile, give some encouragement, give a $5 bill, give something, you know. Give some inner love, give the wish, may you be well, give something to everyone. And notice if the generosity that's not beyond generosity gets in your way, it might. Like, oh, I don't know if he deserves it, or I don't feel like it, or whatever. Like, well, no, Forget about that. Hi. Third one. Let go of your thoughts. And let go of your thoughts. And let go of your thoughts. You have to repeat these things. Otherwise, it doesn't sink in. You know? Here's a fourth one. Be curious, be open, be full of wonder. Or how about rejoice in the truth that everything you know is incomplete. Rejoice in how wonderful it is that we have so much more we get to learn. More than we can ever imagine or think about. So rejoice in our incompleteness. Isn't that good? Last one I thought of last night. Smile. Smile deeply. Let your smile fill the universe. So I want to share that little poem again, and then I want to open the floor. And what I'm really curious about, though, is what helps you to appreciate whatever it is I'm trying to talk about. You probably have your own words for it. That sense of peace, that sense of openness, that sense of remembering who you are. Sometimes people say that at the meditation retreat. Boy, I kind of feel like I remember who I am again. Which is so odd. Like, well, did you forget? Yeah, I guess we do forget, right? Yeah. So anyway, here's that poem again. You can just let that suggestion percolate. Don't think about it too much, obviously, right? And then let's see what we have to share about how do we feel and appreciate this idea, this reality. Sit down wherever you are and listen to the wind singing in your veins. Feel the love, the longing, the fear in your bones. Open your heart to who you are right now. Not the one you would like to be, not the saint you are striving to become, but the being right here, before you, inside you, around you, all of you is holy. You are already more and less than whatever you can know. Breathe out, touch in, let go. Thanks for listening to all that. Yeah, let's stop the recording at this point. Dave, thanks for doing tech today. Sidebar, if you would like to learn how to do the tech and help with that, I'm going to do a little training after lunch today at 1. So it's a nice way to help the Sangha. Especially if you're a little bit geeky, you can do Dharma geekery. Actually, you know what? Nobody's on Zoom, so we actually don't... Well, let's use the microphone anyway, but it's sort of less critical. Just help us here. But